Welcome to the Connector 302 Temporary Redirect Show, giving you the opportunity to step away from the grind of working in your business and investing 30 minutes to listen to people who can help you work on it. Hello everybody, 302 on a Thursday afternoon. Welcome to another edition of the Connector 302 Redirect Show. Today we have the incomparable Rebecca Caroe. She is a direct response marketing and new business development specialist. She's had 25 years helping CEOs, business owners learn ways to win new clients. Persistent, diligent. She's got flashes of inspiration. God, she can tell us a whole lot more about what she does. Welcome, Rebecca. How are we going?
We're going great. I'm really flattered to be here.
Oh, always good to have you on. For those of you that don't know Rebecca, she is an absolute character. I love her to death. We try and catch up at plenty of events that we cross over at and never fail to have a great conversation about stuff that's very topical at the moment. As well as just loving to shoot the shit. So that's all I'm going to do today, shoot the shit a little bit, talk about some stuff that's really going on in our industry and put things off. So those of us that don't know you, take us back, because right back to where it all began. You've got a funny accent. Why don't we start there?
Born in the UK, I'm a Pom, born in Peckham. If you remember Only Fools and Horses, that was shot in Peckham. And
old Cowboy.
And Rodney.
Yeah.
I had a little Peckham accent until I went to school, when I figured out that you got the shit kicked out of you if you sounded different from everybody else.
So is that where you learned how to talk posh?
There was a mix of that. My parents then moved out of London, and they all talk posh in Surrey. There's a whole series of jokes about Surrey girls, which are worth looking up when you have an idle moment.
Anything like the Essex girls?
Oh, completely different, but same genre.
Okay, excellent. So brought up in Peckham, moved to Surrey, found the world. What next?
Yeah, I was a middling schoolgirl, went to a girls' school. We thought it was terrible. It was probably wonderful. I went to university at a place called Cambridge, and while I was there, all of the clubs and societies used to recruit the new arrived freshers with drinks parties. And I remember this not very tall man approaching me and going, "Oh, you're tall. Why don't you try rowing?" And I went, "Yeah, why not?" And more or less, I've been doing it ever since. So I'm also known as Rowing Rebecca by a few people.
Rowing Rebecca, and rowing in Cambridge is a big deal.
It's extraordinary. Out of a student population of around 10 to 12,000, around half of them actually try rowing at some point during their studies.
Holy crap. It's actually, from many friends that I've had throughout the years and friends today that have got children in rowing, they believe it's the best thing you can do for your kids because it keeps you way out of trouble. You're too tired to worry about getting in trouble.
Yes, it also has a thing that some other sports don't seem to replicate, which is it makes real deep friendships. I think it's because there's that mixture of collaboration. You and I are in the same boat, therefore we've got to work hard together. And then another day, we might be in a different boat, and then we're competitors. So there's this wonderful tension of I'm with you, today we're it, tomorrow
and how about
you might be the enemy.
And camaraderie through sufferance, and it's amazing how much pain brings people together.
Yep, there's a lot of it in rowing. You see my blisters?
Yes. Brilliant. Cambridge, what did you study?
Rowing. I got a first-class degree in rowing. I got a second-class degree in geography.
I love it. And then what next?
Oh, I got a job working for Jones Lang, who was, a big real estate agency. My first job was in their market research department, and we did the research for Canary Wharf in London's Docklands before they built any of it. And we were basically asked, who are the office tenants who will actually lease these buildings that we are going to build? And it was a very interesting first introduction to databases, data collection, data analysis, which curiously is something I'm still doing today.
I love it how so many people that I meet day in, day out, and great jobs, great roles that they're absolutely passionate about, are doing nothing to do with what they actually got their qualification in a university.
Which is just as well that I'm married a Kiwi. You see, New Zealand wouldn't have let me in the country based on being a geography graduate unless I was a geography teacher, because they'd go, oh, it's got no relevance to what you're doing now.
Absolutely. Cool. So Canary Wharf, that has been an absolute revelation. I mean, God, the development there and the way that took off was just insane.
Considering it started in a recession. I started work about 2 months before Black Monday, which was the stock market crash at the end of the 80s that kind of signaled the end of the good times. Yes, I'm old.
Yeah. When you say the start of the recession, everyone would have thought, 2008.
It was a badge of honor to have lived and worked through several recessions. And the problem with the 1987 recession was there hadn't been one in the UK since 1973, which was a blooming long time. And there was a whole generation of people who never knew what it was like to not have any customers.
Mm-hmm. And to go without.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So what was next on the radar? How did you? Wow, obviously you married a Kiwi. How did you get into marketing, and sales and the like?
Even at Jones Lang, I was interested in new business development. I wanted to be the team that was pitching for new work, writing proposals and things. My subsequent jobs, I went to work in what I called research-led marketing. So I was working mostly for charter surveying firms, which is commercial real estate agents, teaching them that if you have a database of prospects, you can probably make direct approaches to them and try and lease your shops or offices or commercial premises. And it'll probably be more effective than just buying a front cover of the trade magazine as an advert and putting adverts out and sending mail shots. Mm-hmm. And it was very innovative at the time. And I just called it research-led marketing because, if you've got an office building, it's got a certain price. There are only a certain number of businesses who can actually afford to pay that and are big enough to occupy the space. So by a process of elimination, if you have a database of offices and office occupiers, marrying them together gives you a great sales insight. And believe it or not, commercial real estate agents didn't do that. They had a lot of stuff up here. They remembered people, but they weren't systematically tracking people's lease expiry dates and going, that man Glenn, his team are going to need a new office in 3 months' time when their lease expires. And so, I mean, it wasn't being done to that level of detail, but bearing in mind, Jones Lang dealt with very large offices in the City of London. There wasn't an enormous universe of potential occupiers out there.
No, and that's, I suppose in today's language, it's as much as, some of the challenges that a lot of businesses face these days is how many people actually have an absolute clear vision of their ideal customer persona and then start actively targeting those people and building that database up so that they can regularly communicate to them. It's an age-old problem that businesses struggle to deal with, but for some of us, it seems like, well, it's just a common sense approach, isn't it? Identify who you need to talk to and talk to them more often.
Which is why I like business to business, because in fact, it's much easier to build your target audience and to be focused. So I was spending some time with a business yesterday who want to target the wine industry. Find there are around 7 countries in New Zealand. They are all members of a single professional body. That professional body has got all of their names and addresses, and in 2 very quick steps, I'm this close to having identified the universe.
Yeah. And it's Fantastic. And using those industry bodies and things like that is just a fantastic approach, isn't it? So what are the sorts of things that you do? Because you're doing a lot of, you do a lot of speaking, you do a lot of training, and a really, really broad base of things that you talk about. So I know yesterday you ran a workshop yesterday. What was that about?
Yesterday's workshop was called WTF Happens to My Social Media Traffic. And it was a breakfast event which we, creative agency Secrets, hosted for people who are already active in social media as brands and businesses and as managers of brands' social media profiles, to understand some of the algorithm changes and the privacy changes that have been happening recently, which are being rolled out, and even new ones are being talked about. Facebook had another great boo-boo yesterday where they did something unspeakable. And basically it allowed us to showcase some of the changes, but also to reinforce our basic principle, which is what we do, which is that if you're a brand and a business and you're wanting to do effective marketing, you need to have some core assets that you own and manage. Generally, these are a mailing list and a website or some variation thereof. It might be an e-commerce store rather than just a website. And if that is the case, you are less beholden to someone like Facebook changing the rules of the game, and it has a lesser impact to your business. So hopefully you don't end up like that unfortunate woman who stormed off to YouTube and started shooting people because she was no longer getting revenue for her videos that she was producing.
Yeah. So personally, I'm a big fan of using all of those channels, but relying on them is suicide, because they can change like that.
And they do. Yeah. And they will continue to do that. And it's basically about you as a business owner or a thinking person in business. Say, what is the risk? And when Web 2.0 was just getting going, and I'm talking about 2000 onwards, there was a business game that we used to enjoy playing. And if I backtrack and tell you, at that stage, I was working for Peppers and Rogers Group, who are a CRM consultancy. They had a wonderful website, which was one-to-one.com, because they talked about having a segment of one who is this customer, Glenn, and this is what he is like, and how do brands have unique relationships with customers. Obviously, nowadays, with social media and fast broadband internet, actually it's really possible. In those days, it was quite theoretical, if I'm being strictly honest. And we used to play this game. You go to see a brand and you would say, you're a traditional business, or what we would now call a traditional business. And we would say, what if there was an internet startup that very quickly undermined your position? We used to call the game destroyyourbusiness.com. And guess what? We see more and more of these even today. You think, oh, it's all been done. There are no new ones to be had. Regularly.
Yep. And how many cases over the years, over the last 10, 15 years, have we seen these massive next big things disappear in a matter of months? Yeah, and exactly. I'm not saying that it will, but these current issues facing Facebook could be a massive risk to them and themselves.
Yeah, absolutely right. And not just Facebook. I have a client who is in ethical fashion. One of the problems with the retail clothing industry is that 1% of the clothes we wear actually get recycled. And fashion is a reasonably high expense, environmentally unfriendly business. And I was reading an article about Stella McCartney, the obviously daughter of a rather famous musician, but a very good clothes designer in her own right. And she has bought her business out of ownership by a big brand company that I think owns Gucci and a couple of other giant brands. She's bought it back because she wants to be in control of the assets. And in the interview, she quotes her grandfather, her mother's father, who was Mr. Eastman, who owned Kodak, which of course was one of those businesses. My God.
Yeah. How relevant are you to today's needs?
Yeah. Really
so
interesting.
That's really interesting. And I don't want to make too much of a play on the whole ethical this and ethical that. Obviously, we're both in the ethical digital marketing community and things like that. But I think there is coming to a point where society is wanting to make that pendulum change coming back the other way. I think cost, especially if we talk fashion, cost is always going to be a factor that is going to impact where clothes are made, how much people are prepared to, or the fashion labels are prepared to pay, and the ethics behind how they pay those people in the conditions that they are in. But there is nothing stopping businesses going out there and crafting a place in the market based on ethical practices, because there is going to be more and more and more of a shift with the general public, people that are attuned to what's going on out there and want to actually put their money, or rather pay a little bit more for something that is going to support people and giving them a living wage and things like that. Would you agree with that?
I would agree. I think more people are thinking about it. What hasn't yet happened is change in behaviours. So one of the things that I am told that the French do is that they have maybe 5 or 6 outfits, I'm talking mainly women here, which are high quality clothes, and they wear them over and over again. So instead of having 20 shirts in their wardrobe, they have 10 or 8, and they wear them, and they're better quality, so they last longer. And that's it's fashion, but it's not so rapidly changing. Is a change in our perception of our spending, because if I have $10 a week to spend on myself, and one of my clients is a bra manufacturer called Rose and Thorn. They're a Kiwi startup. You should all check them out, particularly if you are larger breasted, double D to G. They're about to introduce a even larger size cup. So go look there if you're one of those people. But one of the things...
My wife's away, my diet would indicate that I'm well on the way to heading down to that requirement, because I'm packing it on while she's not here.
There you go. One of the things that a bra in their range costs between $24 and $36. There are some variants. And people who are careful with their money, particularly work mums, will get an allowance of money for housekeeping to feed and clothe the kids each week and pay the rent and other things. And they will put aside maybe $10 to spend on themselves. And they will save up. And, you know, after 3 weeks, they have enough money maybe to buy a $24 bra, which is theirs, but you can't see it because and mums are terrible because they put themselves last. The kids always come first. And looking after yourself, and that sort of mindset of, can I think about saving my money, or do I need to put something on lay-by, which is another very interesting retail proposition, which doesn't cost you extra. It's not lending you money at an interest rate. You pay the same amount, and the retailer holds
the goods.
The cost, exactly. So little things like that, I think, are the small behavioural changes that we will begin to see as people reflect in their buying behaviours the impact of the environment and perhaps ethics that you've just mentioned.
So getting back to B2B, now, what are some of the strategies that you see that are working really, really well in B2B at the moment? Because there is always the flavour of the month that, you know, sometimes it is working. But there's also the tried and true. So if you had your 5 minutes to go, B2B business, this is the absolute fundamental cause of the things that you should be doing day in, day out, what would they be?
I generally think that there are about 18 or 19 tactics that you can use to get traction. And by traction, I mean getting your product or service to market and getting sales. The balance of what you choose for your business is often different, but the kinds of tried and true that I rely on are, number one, a database which is regular from which you send, let's not call them, the opportunities to get face-to-face with your buying customers at places like trade shows, industry meetups, conferences, education events, because business to business is always done person to person.
Yep.
Really big businesses are made up of individual people, and you do need to know those people. So the fourth bit on there is probably LinkedIn, making sure that you at least recognize the names of people who are working in the business that you want to sell to. And LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a paid for service that it's not flavor of the month, but it is always on and always useful. And then if you are at a career position to be able to speak at conferences or to be a spokesperson in PR in the trade press, I think that is still and continues to be valuable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm a massive believer in the idea that people want to do business or will do business with those who they like, they trust, and whose opinions they value. And so if you're in B2B sales, LinkedIn is a fantastic platform to build your own personal brand, and from your personal brand, then you build the profile of the company that you're working with, because that way you're creating real connections with real people that see the content and what you're putting out, the sorts of things you talk about, and if they connect with you there, then there is a high probability that when you meet them face to face, that you're going to have a great connection there, and they're going to want to do business with you.
Or in my case, say, God, Glenn, you look just like your photo.
That bad. I should be an advocate for headshots because I need one.
In all seriousness, what you say is absolutely right. One of the things as a British person coming to work in New Zealand that I had not appreciated, and to be fair, no one explained it to me. I didn't ask, I had to work it out, and I was a bit slow to learn. People in New Zealand are extremely unwilling or unlikely to do business with you unless they've met you. So for me, as a complete unknown, I worked very hard to try and meet new people. And over probably the first 18 months that I was living here in Auckland, I met about 1,500 people face to face and exchanged business cards with them. Now, that got me going to the extent that now I can look up almost anyone in New Zealand and I'll find that I'm 2 or possibly 3 degrees away from them, usually 2, because I've met people like you who are kind of Uber connectors, who are very networked, know a lot of people. Because I know you, thanks to you, and there are a few other people, it means that I am then closer to others. But I'll give you a tip.
And in a completely un-PC way, I refer to myself as a LinkedIn, but I'm becoming a little bit more selective about the clientele.
Well, that's the point. That's the tip I wanted to add, is that I realized that I have been approached in LinkedIn and in other social networks by fake profiles. And it's not just gorgeous young women wearing bikinis. You know, some of them look like people who might be potential business customers.
Not real?
Yeah, some of them are.
Right, we're going to have to stop this. I need to go through and delete a few.
But I have a little trick which I'd like to share with the listeners, which is that when people text me and I don't think I actually know them, I always write back. And if I think they might be fake, I write back and I say, would love to connect with you, but I have a rule that I prefer to know the people I'm connected with on LinkedIn. Here's my phone number. Could you ring me so we can get acquainted? And if they can't be bothered to get on the phone to me or to work out how to use Skype or, you know, some other calling, I can't be bothered actually to connect with them. And it's a very simple rule that gives me permission to ignore them.
Yeah, and I mean, if they want to connect with you and then you come back and offer you a phone number to have an actual conversation, that is either bloody amazing, it's gold. I've got this great opportunity to forge this relation with someone who I wanted to connect with, or I'm just an absolute whore that's growing my connection so I can piggyback off them to get other people and a waste of space. Right?
Or I don't read my LinkedIn messages. And if you don't read your LinkedIn messages, then you're really not going to be the sort of person I want to be connected with.
Question from Stu Hartley. Do you find value in having to pay to join associations, etc., in order to get in front of those members? or use the dollars to target these members directly outside of the association and trade bodies?
Stuart, that's a really
Rebecca.
good question. It's a good question. And the answer is quite often I do pay, partly because when you are inside an association, you genuinely get a membership list. And then I can email you, say I didn't know you, and say, hey Stu, we're both members of this association and I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn, or are you going to be at the next event? And so it achieves two goals. One is I get to meet you and, you know, build my personal contact network. But secondly, I can legitimately grow my database. And then there are other things which are exchanges of value which are non-monetary. So I like to write articles. I've written articles for a while for New Zealand Entrepreneur magazine. And in fact, I am high-fiving myself right now because I'm in the current April edition of New Zealand Business magazine. There's a picture of somebody in a rowing boat. That's my article. You'll find it. Anyway, if you're in an association, often you can then write articles for their newsletter or their online magazine or their website, and there's benefits with incoming links from, you know, robust websites, and the possibility that you can give away some free insight which just might be timely for someone. And I find that those kind of accidents of timing are one of the best ways for people to connect with you. I did a blog post for a client which published last week, which said that someone had written in with a question, I'm feeling lonely and excluded in this particular environment. And so I wrote an article to respond to that explicit question. I sent it privately by email to the questioner, then I anonymized it and published it. And there were two comments immediately, one of whom said, we have this exact situation right now, this is what's happening, thank you, I'm going to go and try that right away. How good is that?
Love it. Yeah. Well, there's one additional thing that I would suggest to Stuart and anyone else that's got that same question is there is no point just joining an association to get access to its members if you don't have a really, really clear picture of who you want to be speaking to. Because associations are associations and you want to be associated with the right people. So if you are dealing in the C-suite and you're dealing with CEOs and CFOs and things like that, and you're joining a general sort of chamber of commerce, I'm a big advocate for chamber of commerce, but if it's just like the Vintners Association or the Retailers Association, you're not going to get access to those people. So be very, very clear in regards to who you want to be speaking to, and then get an understanding on whether or not that the association members fit into that demographic. Otherwise, you've just got another logo to put on your email signature. I'm a member of this, and that doesn't necessarily help create connections. And the brand credibility that it adds is probably not going to be worth how much you're paying.
Agreed. Fully agreed that, yeah. But do go and look at meetup.com. There are a very, very large number of business and social events. So one of my clients is a tax agent, and he gives tax advice on a lot of things, including Bitcoin. And so I'm trying to get him speaking engagements to some of the Bitcoin meetups and cryptocurrency and blockchain meetups that already exist. Because chances are they haven't yet had a speaker talking about tax.
No, because my understanding is that has just been acknowledged by IRD to be treated very, very similar to how property, is it not? With tax on gains.
Yes, is my understanding, but it is not a currency for taxation purposes, is the rule.
Yeah,
and even though Bitcoin is virtual, if you are resident in New Zealand, you fall under the New Zealand tax code. And when you realize your gain, you will get taxed on the profit that you make, is my understanding.
Yeah.
It's still being filtered through by the Inland Revenue, so it's not yet, common practice.
Yeah, I can't offer any advice because I know nothing. So don't listen to me if I talk about Bitcoin because I'm full of crap. Anyway, What's coming up next for you?
Coming up
You've
next,
got something else coming up.
I have. Every year I try and bring an overseas speaker to New Zealand to talk about something new and different. And in October this year, I'm bringing a man called Blair Enns here. And he is an expert in value pricing. His specialist customer, target audience, are actually creative agencies. But the principles of what he teaches are applicable to any business that sells an intangible, so generally a service business. And he's giving a free webinar on the 24th of May at 9 a.m, which is New Zealand time, which is going to be talking about how to price creativity.
Yeah, because it's not about time, eh?
Okay. So here's how he explains the challenge. When he's giving a talk, he brings up a slide and it's a picture of a stick. It's a tree branch thing. And he says to the audience, "Hey, Glenn, how long's the stick?" And Glenn says,
"About, that long."
Exactly. And someone else goes, "Oh, no, it's about this long." And then somebody eventually says, "Well, actually, we've got no way of measuring how long that stick is because it's just a picture of a stick on a screen. If there was a coin next to it, I'd know how big the stick was." And that is the insight. Pricing is relative.
Yes.
And value pricing is about establishing the value that your creativity or service brings or delivers to the client. And then that gives them a way of saying, no, don't charge out by the hour because it doesn't reflect probably the value that you are giving to your client. So there are principles which he teaches and you can learn and I can learn.
Absolutely. Now, I want to take full circle back again as well to the WTF happened to my very non-social media session you did yesterday. A couple of the top tips that you had out of that, because I know you did a Facebook Live. You did a Facebook Live from the event and things like that, which was great. So what are the couple of the top tips out of that? And I think there might be an opportunity for us to actually, I'd love to do something with that for the audience. Maybe we can redo that as a Facebook Live or a webinar or something like that, because we can reach heaps of people.
We can. So one of the challenges of teaching principles in marketing is that it's very easy to understand the principle and it's very, very hard to put it into practice unless you've seen an example. So what we did yesterday was mostly talk about the theory. What I think you and I could do together, and I'm very happy to offer my own social media accounts as the guinea pig, is to show some actual work through examples of things that are changing and what we've done to react to that change. Now, have you got a social media account that maybe we could open up to scrutiny?
Well, we can certainly talk about it, and let's lock something in. So let's maybe look at that in a couple of weeks' time, and we can jump on and lift the lid and see what we can do with it.
That sounds brilliant. And bear in mind, there are no right answers. And so people who are courageous enough to have a discussion in public or in a trusted group, we can then work through some of the answers together. Because one of the things that I have learned so quickly from the Ethical Digital Marketing group is that people are unbelievably generous with their helpful insights.
And open and asking questions as well, which I love, because it's that old adage of, you may be the one brave enough to ask the question, but there's probably another 50 in the room that are thinking it and think that people will think that they're stupid for asking. So always be brave enough to ask the stupid question, because it's not stupid.
Exactly. And the other thing is that because we tend to work on our own as marketing professionals, a lot of us have a sort of imposter syndrome, feeling that we're not quite sure that we really are at the leading edge and that maybe, we're actually not very good at what we're doing. But because there are no textbooks or training courses to authenticate how good we are, it's very hard to prove your expertise or to be confident that you aren't missing a trick. And so I get enormous value out of listening to other people coming up with these ideas and suggesting things. And, you know, it gives me both reassurance, but also opens up a whole load of new things, which I love learning new things. Yeah,
I've got this saying that I try and hold myself true towards is run towards failure and run towards fear. Because and I know, say like Rebecca Hollis yesterday was in a room and he did this great post of, look at who the dumbest person in the room is. And I love being in that situation because I know I'm going to be the one that's getting the most growth. And that's why you should never be afraid of asking questions, because without asking those questions, you're never going to get the answers that you want, that you need.
Yeah, which is one of the reasons why on my LinkedIn, I changed my profile recently to say that I help young marketers, or I help marketers get their next job by coaching them offline. What are the things you want to be able to do? What would you like to be able to do? What are you doing now? And because there was nothing like that when I was trying to climb the career ladder. And it's very frustrating because you can go on training courses, but it doesn't really demonstrate to your future employer what you are really good at.
Yep. No, fantastic. Love it. Well, that's about it. We've generally got a half-hour limit on these, and we've jumped on nearly 40 minutes, so we've done well. There's plenty more that I would love to talk to you about, and we're going to have another one of these, and we'll lift the lid on some of the social media stuff, and we will carry on. Thank you so much. Looking forward to it. There is no temporary redirect next week because I am temporarily redirected to Samoa, but we will have another show the week after. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you later. Adios. Signing out.